Hey, this is Caleb Ulku, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time today talking about Upwork's Job Success Score algorithm. We're going to talk about how they calculate it, why they calculate it, who it benefits, and how you can work to get the best job success score possible. I've got a lot of questions from people who have a bunch of 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews, but a less than perfect job success score. So we're going to dive in a little bit in terms of what the key backbone to that calculation is, other things that affect it, how you can get a high one, and I'm also going to touch on how necessary a strong job success score actually is. So let's start by taking a look at Upwork's own documentation. So this is Upwork's site. This is their support article about job success score. And the key thing to note here is they say at a high level, we look at job success this way: successful outcomes minus negative outcomes divided by total outcomes. So that formula is going to be important. Now, this example is 93%, and job success score is always from like 1% to 100%. And I hear from a lot of people who have like a 92 or even an 82%, and they're very worried that they're not going to be able to find clients because the job success score is too low. So the first thing I wanted to do was dispel some of that rumor. So I pulled up a few freelancer profiles. We can see Edna here, 77% job success score, $30,000 of earnings, 230 jobs. We got Jim. He has an 80% job success score, 100K in earnings. He actually has 22 jobs in progress, and that's with an 80% job success score. Dave, below 80%, he's at 77%, but he has $20,000 of earnings and 3 jobs in progress, right? This is with a 77% job success score. Michael, 86, that's below that 90% minimum that you need for top rated, 6 jobs in progress, $200,000 of earnings. John, 77%, 5 jobs in progress, $10,000 of earnings. Cindy, 71%, 6 jobs in progress, 100K earnings. And a truly great example, Carlos here, he does email copywriting. He's $250 an hour. He has 3 jobs in progress, $20,000 of earnings, and a 42% job success rating. So the point of that is to just show you that, you don't need a 100% job success score in order to get jobs on Upwork. A lot of these freelancers, and I hate that terminology, but that's from Upwork, so we'll use it. It puts you in the wrong mindset. But for now, a lot of these freelancers are on Upwork and are getting jobs even with a relatively low job success score. The other thing to keep in mind when we're searching for freelancers, we can see that if we look under job success, there are only 3 filters, right? Any, 80% and up, or 90% and up. So that basically means that the difference between a 90 and a 100% is actually quite low, because 90% is the only, that's the highest level that Upwork has. And if you maintain a 90% job success score for 12 weeks, you'll get the top rated badge, which is very helpful. But again, not necessary to have success on Upwork. So let's talk about the job success score and what it is actually based on. So here again is Upwork's support article. Here's this formula that they're giving you at a high level. Now, this formula is very familiar to me, and it's actually something called net promoter. So percent promoters minus percent detractors is the net promoter score. And you can see scale of 1 to 10. This is the exact same formula that Upwork uses to show you the high level job success score and how it works. But you might be thinking, when a client leaves feedback on Upwork, their feedback is from 1 star to 5 stars. There's no 0 to 10 that you can see as a freelancer for when clients have left feedback for you. Well, what's very interesting about this, here's a job that I have on Upwork as a client, and I'm closing it out. And this is what the client sees when they're closing out a job. Private feedback. This feedback will be kept anonymous and never shared directly with the freelancer. Reason for ending, then I select why. And then the first question, how likely are you to recommend this freelancer to a friend or colleague? From 0 to 10. Hey, 0 to 10, does that look familiar? And this formula here is pretty much this formula here. So really what we see is that Upwork's job success score is by and large based on private feedback. I could leave a 0 and then come down here and leave 5 stars public feedback. And this would really hurt this freelancer's job success score, but they would never see why, right? Or I could leave a 9 or 10 and leave all 1s, which would be strange, but I could do that knowing that this has a larger impact on the job success score than the public feedback I'd be leaving, which is really wild. A lot of freelancers on Upwork don't realize that the biggest thing driving their job success score is feedback they can't see. So if we think about this from Upwork's perspective, right, why would they do that? Well, who's the job success score for? Now, one thing to keep in mind about Upwork is that Upwork is a very unusual platform that has more service providers than service needers, right? If you think about Uber, Uber has more people who need the service than they do people who provide the service, right? More people are getting rides than are driving. And the vast majority of successful platforms operate in that way. More people need the service than are providing it. But that's not how Upwork is, right? On Upwork, there are more freelancers than there are people who need a service completed. That's why the competition on Upwork is relatively high. That's why there's a lot of interest in people trying to figure out how to get a lot of work on Upwork, because there are more freelancers than there are clients. Now, Upwork is also a publicly traded company, so we can guess that their goal is to maximize their profit, just like any other publicly traded for-profit corporation. So the way that they would do that is by getting more clients on the platform. They don't need more freelancers. They already have enough freelancers. And this is why it's actually not super easy to get a profile approved as a new freelancer in certain spaces. It's very common that people will receive a message from Upwork that basically says, you know, sorry, we have enough freelancers that do this, goodbye. So the job success score, we can assume it's for the client, because most of the things that Upwork does are to benefit the client. And from a client's perspective, right, when I post a job on Upwork, if I get a dozen applications or 20 applications, even I posted one recently, only got 4 applications, but even in that case, the job success score is one quick number that I can look at and decide, do I want to spend more time investigating this particular freelancer? So the job success score is there for the client's benefit to quickly sort through freelancers that maybe have a low score and they just want to move on, because clients don't want to spend the amount of time and energy to go through and read every single review listed. Plus, right, we know that when a client ends out a job, if the client doesn't leave 5-star review, like if the client leaves 3 or 4 or even worse review, the freelancer will often reach back out to the client and say something like, hey, you know, I see you left 4 stars. What could I do to have made this a 5-star experience for you? The freelancer's goal there, obviously, is to get the client to change their feedback so that they have all 5-star reviews. But the freelancer can't see this private feedback. And so because the public feedback is obviously visible to the freelancer, and will cause the freelancer to reach out and try to get it changed, maybe add something else, do some additional work to get that public feedback 5 stars. Upwork went ahead and hid the primary factor in the job success score from the freelancer to avoid that type of behavior, because they want the client's first reaction. And what's interesting is it's not like, you know, looking at the net promoter, we can guess that if somebody enters a 0 or a 1, that's actually not worse than if they'd entered a 4 or a 5. It counts as a detractor regardless. And you don't need a perfect 10. A 9 counts as a good outcome. And a 7 or 8 passive, you know, that's a neutral outcome. So that would be not, you know, percent promoters minus detractors. So the passive ones, they still hurt the job success score, but not nearly as much as a detractor. And we can see contracts without activity and excessive lack of feedback, you know, that clearly is a sign that if you keep getting neutrals, no feedback, no activity, that drops your job success score. Yet another factor that makes it very similar to the Net Promoter Score. So what else do we know about the job success score? Okay. So one, if you leave negative feedback to a client and that client leaves negative feedback for you, that will negatively impact your job success score less than if you left positive feedback and the client left negative feedback. That's just a sign, sometimes people just don't work together well, or maybe there are bad clients. So that has less of an impact on your job success score. And on top of that, if there's a client who regularly gets bad reviews from freelancers, that review will have a much lower impact on your job success score. Okay, so that's one area. And a second area that we know is multiple jobs from the same client. They call it here long-term relationships, repeat contracts. So if you get multiple jobs, 1, 2, 3 jobs from the same client, that's going to help your job success score more than one ongoing job. So you have a client who hires you to do, a Facebook cover, graphic design for a Facebook cover, and then they say, hey, that was great, I want to do another one. Well, it's going to be much better for you if you close out that first job and then create a new job for the second cover. I know that's a bit of a pain, especially for some of your clients, but having those multiple closed out and reopened jobs are going to be better for your job success score long term. But we also know that positive reviews from different clients are better than positive reviews from the same client over and over again. So if that's going to be really painful for your client, don't force them to do that. But if it's a good client, good ongoing relationship, it could be something for you to ask them to do. Hey, close out this job, let's start a new one. Don't be too obvious about it, because you don't want to get flagged for doing this too much and breaking what should be one job into like 5 mini jobs. That won't help you either. So be reasonable about it, okay? And another aspect, and this is relatively recent, larger jobs have a bigger impact on the job success score than smaller jobs. So if you knock a $1,000 job out of the park and you screw up a $20 job, that's going to help your job success score. If you do the opposite, knock a $20 job out of the park and screw up a $1,000 job, well, obviously you shouldn't do that anyway to have long-term success on Upwork, but that will impact your job success score and could impact it significantly. So those are just a few things about the job success score that I think are important to know. To a quick recap, the number one thing to keep in mind about the job success score is that the bulk of it is based on private feedback, right? It's feedback that you can't see as a freelancer. So you can look at your review history, see nothing but 5-star reviews, and then have a less than stellar job success score. So that's number one, it's private feedback. The number two thing to take away, you don't need a perfect job success score to get work. $250 an hour, 3 jobs in progress, $20,000 of earnings, 42% job success score, okay? So you can be successful on Upwork, you can land jobs, even if you have a less than perfect job success score. And number 3, when you're looking at your job success score, 80 and up, 90 and up, those are the only 2 tranches that matter. There's no real difference between 91 and 99, and there's no real difference between 47 and 79. These are the only real tranches that matter. 90% and up, you can get top rated status, which has some other benefits to it. And finally, the only reason to have a job success score at all is to help clients use the Upwork platform more often. They're not for the freelancer's benefit, they're for the client's benefit. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed this deep dive into Upwork's job success score. And go ahead and hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for the next video about how to have success on Upwork.